One of the things that fascinate me is, in general, how people found out things how they did long time back, when there is no fancy electronics, microcontroller, sensors, and all of this, right? How did they find these minute things, even the big things actually, starting from Indian mathematicians to Western mathematicians, right? So rediscovery from their end. So from our end, it's altogether genius as well. So we know the value of g to be 6.67 into 10 to the power of minus 11. And guys, this was found, and it's a tiny value, right? This is 10 to the power of minus 11. It's a very, very small value. This was found in 1790s when there was no fancy stuff like that. There was no fancy sensors for us to do this, to figure out such small value. But how did people do it? So this might have been one of the possibilities. Again, this is how I would have reasoned out. So let's figure it out. So what I mean is, first I would have started off with the fact that we have this relationship that we are clear with. Next, obviously we would have combined this and we would have seen that these are all the factors and the proportionality constant is there. If not, it would have not been this small. The forces would have not been the weakest of force, right? So we need to figure out this. Now, if I have to set up an experiment, what can I control? Can I control all of this? Can I control the masses of this experiment and how far they are? I can, right? So I can control these values. Can I control force? No, right? I can't control force. Because if I'm setting up all of this, I can't control the effect of it. But what can I do? I can measure it. So only thing that I have to do is this. I have to measure it. Have to measure it. Okay. So let's solve this. Once we do this, and it's a matter of placing certain values and finding the constant. So our agenda over here is to measure force. Right? The cause should be gravity. Okay, let me start off. Again, this is me. If I was there and me and you guys were there, maybe this would have been a possibility. I would have taken a spring, right? For a second, I would have started off with a lot of excitement. A spring. So I know the mass. I can certainly keep it a certain distance above the surface of the earth. I'll know the radius as well. But I don't know mass of earth. So this is not good. Why? We have M1 R known, M2 will not know M2, and obviously F also we can't know, right? So with so many unknowns, F we know. Here we measured F, but there are two unknowns still. Constant and M2 will be unknown. F we measured with the help of the spring. This is known, this is known, this is not known, and R2 again. So this leads to two unknowns. So this will give us. So this leads to actually two unknowns. Right? So this will not help us out. So what is the next thing? What else can we do? So next formula that we know is torque is equal to your length times of force. We know this. Can we use it? So this is to do with rotation. Can we make things rotate so that we end up finding this out? So if I know this length, I can control, right? So length can control this. If I figure it out, I'll be able to figure out force. So can I control the torque? Since I can't make the gravity go up and down because we have earth. So we have to go perpendicular to the Earth's surface so that acceleration due to gravity or gravity because of the Earth will not get influenced. So can I control? Yes, this is can control. So when it comes to this, I have to take a plane, right? Torque, it's to do with rotation. So I have to do it in a plane. Is it PLANA or PLAIN? I get confused. This is PLANA. Okay, I have to take a plane that is perpendicular to Earth's surface. So Mother Earth's surface, so that f of g is not a factor. So what can we do? How can we set up so that we have this, So I have to, so this is not first, sorry. I have to do this. I have to do, I have to do it in a plane. I have to do the experiment in a plane. I have to do the experiment in a plane. So this is what I'm facing. So how can I set up so that the experiment happens in a plane which is perpendicular to the surface? What can I do? Think about it. It's PLAIN, right? Yeah. PLAIN. Okay, yeah, PLAIN. Yeah, guys, what can we do? So what we can do is I can hang a thread made up of something stronger and then connect a rod and connect two masses whose, of course, mass we know, to material whose mass we know. Right? Now, I want it to rotate in this plane, right? In a plane which is perpendicular to the surface. So, it's obvious for me to keep another mass over here and the same mass over here because it has to be identical. To use this formula, what is that I'm making? I'm making a couple. Right? That's the best way to rotate something, a couple. Is it not? So rotation happens with a couple. Do you guys agree? So here I'm creating a couple. So what happens now? So with this setup, it's kind of obvious that this will get pulled in and this also will get pulled in, provided we keep the distance the objects are at. If everything is same, the force, this is because of gravitational pull and the force is also because of gravitational pull. This happens. Eventually it will rotate and it will stop. So why will it stop? Because if you have taken a cloth, right? If you have taken a cloth, let me take a second to explain this. If you have taken any cloth and you start twisting it, how much can you twist it? To certain number of rotation, right? Maybe 4 rotation. But if you give it to your brother, elder brother, or cousin, or father, or anyone elder to you who is stronger, they can clearly rotate more, right? That's obvious. So basically, what I'm trying to tell is the material will oppose the rotation. So they will oppose the rotation. So same thing will happen over here. So the couple, we have a force. The material, the property is so that it will oppose the rotation. To certain extent, it will obey, and after that, it will oppose. And eventually, what will happen? They will balance out. Okay, guys. Say initially it was here. So initially, say this were here. So this is the initial position. And this is the final position. So basically, because of this force, they rotated with an angle of theta. So if I figure out this theta, okay. So if I figure out the theta, I just have to multiply with your torque constant. So this is a torque constant. It's material. It's a property. This is material dependent. So this we can figure it out easily. So this we know, this we can measure. Okay. So how can we measure this? There's one more, there's one more idea to this. So I'll explain, but you guys can imagine, we can measure this aram se, right? On an average, or we can just take that, we can do it manually also, but they did it in a smarter way. I'll explain that. So with this, I'll be able to measure torque. If with torque, I'll be able to measure force, right? All you have to do is a bit of rearrangement. So once we know the force, so everything is known, all we have to do is substitute it over here, and we found the constant. And this is your Cavendish experiment. Okay. So you can see over here, he came up with this idea, and of course I'm explaining that. Okay guys, so he did a smarter way to measure the angle. So let me explain that. He placed a mirror, and you can imagine a bit far away, he had something like this with this as a center. And here he marked the initial angle without the mass. He marked where he switched on the light, right? And he saw where the spot was. So this is initial point. So because of the rotation and everything, right? So say the final spot, after it's settled, the final spot is over there. So basically, if this is considered as 10 degree, right, or 0 degree, it doesn't matter. And this is say 20 degree or some 16 degree, right? The spot will move, and so we can measure it. That's it. This simple setup we'll be able to do it. With this simple setup, we'll be able to figure out theta. And this is what this person kind of did. Not exactly. This was just my reasoning. If I was to do this, I would reason in this manner. So this is actually Cavendish experiment, and this is a setup. You can web search. There are actual, setup similar to this, and you can actually see them. So you can web search that. The actual experiment can also be seen.